Welcome to Module 2 in our tutorial on using Audacity for audio recording and editing. We're going to be talking about how to lay down multiple tracks, how to adjust those tracks, how to do an edit, and then how to export multiple tracks to a project file or export them as an MP3. Let's get started.
Okay, welcome to Module 2 on using Audacity. You may recall from Module 1 we learned about some of the basic buttons and function keys in Audacity. We set our audio recording levels. We used the record button to lay down a basic audio track. We used the selection tool to highlight a portion of the timeline, then used the delete key to remove that. We also came over and we could have saved our audio track as a project, but instead we exported it as an MP3. So quite a few things in the first module. Now what I'd like to do is to show you how to lay down multiple tracks using Audacity. And we're going to begin pretty much the same way that we went about our first audio track. Click on the record button. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Okay, that was pretty straightforward. You can see that our recording levels are okay. I'm going to go back up here and start monitoring again. I will say that once again we recorded in stereo, so I'm going to go up here and split that stereo track to mono and then go ahead and delete one side of the audio track. So we're down to one mono track. I also see that I had a bit of a pause at the end and a bit of a pause at the beginning. So I'm going to take the selection tool and I'm going to trim off that end. So I'm going to highlight that and then I'm going to go down and press the delete key and take that off. I'm going to rewind. And as you know, I got to make this quick little adjustment here so that you can hear the Audacity track. So let me do that. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Okay, so hopefully you got that. Pretty straightforward. Well, what would happen if we were reading a script or a narration and we had to pause, ran out of breath, got interrupted, the phone rang or whatever? Other than doing an edit, we have another option. So what we can do is lay down a second track. So what we do is go over here and click on the selection tool, and then on the timeline decide where we want that to begin. So I pretty much want my second track to begin at the where my first track left off. So I'm going to click on the selection tool, and then I'm going to go back up and click on the record button. This is an example of how to lay down a second track using Audacity. Okay, so you can see we've laid down a second track. Once again, it's recorded in stereo, so I'm going to come over here, I'm going to split it to mono, and then I'm going to eliminate one side of the stereo track. And I think you can begin to see why being in mono might be important, because as you get a number of these tracks laid out, it can get kind of cumbersome. So now that we have two of these tracks together, let's take a quick listen to see how they work in combination. This is an example of how to lay down a second track using Audacity. Oops, so maybe you saw what I did there. I made a bit of a mistake because I didn't rewind. I didn't go all the way to the beginning. So let's listen to it from the beginning. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. This is an example of how to lay down a second track using Audacity. Okay, so you can see these things just play sequentially, one right after the other. So if you are reading a script and, as I say, you have to take a breath or you get interrupted or you make a mistake, you can cut part of it out, and it just gives you an opportunity to lay down multiple tracks so that you can use those to produce a longer audio track. It's pretty easy and pretty straightforward. Now, getting these aligned and getting the proper rhythm or cadence to the audio can sometimes mean making some adjustments. So to do that, I'm going to come up here and click on the arrow tool or the time shift tool. And then I'm going to be able to grab a hold of these tracks and make some adjustments. I can move them back and forth. So I can overlap them. I can have a greater distance or gap, and of course this area right here is just going to be silence. So when you're getting these tracks put together to create one long audio, it'll be important to use the arrow key or the time shift tool to make sure that they're properly aligned. So in this particular case, I'm going to get them just a little bit closer together. And I'm even going to go in here and grab the selection tool and cut that part off. Use the delete key, and there it goes. Go back to the arrow key and line them up just a little bit. Okay, now won't make the same mistake twice. I'm going to rewind all the way to the beginning, and now let's take a listen to that real quick. The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. This is an example of how to lay down a second track using Audacity. Okay, so hopefully that gives you an idea of how you can go about doing that. And as you lay these tracks down, they just continue to stair step so that you have one sequenced right after another. Now, as you get many of these tracks lined up, sometimes it can be difficult to see what's going on. So in order to get a better feel for seeing all these tracks combined, you can go under View and you can zoom out. And that way you have more area to look at. Of course, you don't see the same see the same detail on each of the tracks. So again, you can use the View tool to zoom in and even closer, so that if there's some small part, a little cough like I just did, that you want to take out, you can do that. So there you have it. You can lay down multiple tracks using much the same technique that we use to lay down a single track. You can use the same editing process. You can use the zoom tool to get in closer, or you can zoom out so that you get more of these tracks available or on the in the window so that you can see them. Once again, you have the ability to go in and save this as a project or export it as an MP3. So pretty much the same sort of approach. Instead of just having a single audio track, we've got multiple audio tracks. So I'm going to let you give that a try. Lay down some multiple tracks. Use the time shift tool or the arrow tool to adjust those and experiment around a little bit. And then we'll come back in Module 3 and I'll show you how to import a music track and lay a music track down as an introduction or as an outro to an audio track. Okay, we'll be back in a little bit.